Hello everyone, and welcome to today's session. I'm excited to introduce our topic, Mega Goal 3.2. Today, we will be focusing on Unit 8, titled Against the Odds. Our main activities will include conversation and listening exercises designed to enhance your skills. In this presentation, we'll explore strategies for overcoming challenges and engaging in meaningful discussions. So, let's get started and make the most of this learning experience together. Today, I want to walk you through the main objectives for this lesson. First, we will focus on dropping final consonants, which is an important part of natural pronunciation. Then, we'll practice real talk phrases within meaningful sentences to help you use them confidently. We'll also learn how to use these words along with their meanings correctly, so you understand both the vocabulary and how to apply it. Next, we'll work on matching some questions about the conversation, which is a great way to improve comprehension and responsiveness. Additionally, we'll practice listening for specific information, so you can pick out key details when you hear conversations. All these objectives are designed to help you become more fluent and natural in your speaking and understanding. They connect to the overall theme of making your communication more authentic and effective. So, let's dive into these objectives and make the most of this lesson. So, what can we infer about these people just from this slide? Well, it suggests that they must know each other well, which means there's likely a level of familiarity or shared experience between them. They might even be friends, which adds another layer of understanding about their relationship. This idea is important because it highlights how relationships and interactions can influence behavior and perceptions. When people know each other well, it often changes how they communicate and how they interpret each other's actions. In the context of our overall theme, understanding these relationships helps us see the bigger picture of social dynamics and how they shape outcomes. So, thinking about what we can guess from this, we realize that familiarity often breeds understanding, or sometimes misunderstandings, depending on the situation. Open your book to page 124. Read along as you listen. Today, we're focusing on an important part of our learning journey. This page emphasizes key concepts that will help us understand the topic more deeply. Remember, engaging with the material actively, like reading along, enhances comprehension. As you follow along, think about how these ideas connect to the bigger picture we're exploring. It's not just about memorizing facts, but about seeing how everything fits together. So, keep your book open and your mind focused as we go through this together. So here, where things start to get really interesting, Fahd begins to find out about all of the coincidences between himself and Ahmed. It's almost like their lives are intertwined in unexpected ways. Now, what's really freaking Fahd out? Well, it's the fact that he was accepted at the college, which, as you might imagine, feels a bit surreal considering everything else going on. But then, on the flip side, we see why Ahmed is actually on cloud 9. It turns out, a space opened up at the college just for him. That's a huge break, a real stroke of luck. This is what we call a lucky break for Ahmed, and it really highlights how sometimes opportunities come at just the right moment, almost like fate stepping in. All of these coincidences and fortunate events tie into the bigger picture of how unpredictable life can be, and how chance can play a major role in shaping our paths. All right, let's dive into slide 6. Here, we're exploring different ways people express their emotions or states of mind through informal phrases. Fahd starts us off with, "Who says, freaking me out?" This phrase captures a moment of feeling genuinely scared or overwhelmed, but in a more intense, almost humorous way. It highlights how people sometimes use humor or exaggeration to cope with stress. Next, Ahmed brings up, "Who says," on cloud 9. This is a classic way of saying someone is extremely happy or excited. It's interesting to see how these expressions vividly paint a picture of emotional states, making communication more colorful and engaging. Then Ahmed mentions, "Who says, break," which might refer to taking a break or needing one, emphasizing the importance of downtime or stepping back from work or stress. Finally, Ahmed talks about, "Who says, iffy." This term is often used to describe something uncertain or questionable, reflecting hesitation or doubt about a situation or decision. Throughout this slide, the key takeaway is how these expressions help us convey complex emotions simply and effectively. They're a crucial part of informal language that adds personality and nuance to our conversations. Recognizing these phrases helps us better understand and connect with others, especially in casual settings. And of course, it ties into our overall theme of understanding language nuances and emotional expression. Let's take a moment to read the words on this slide and understand their meaning. As we go through these key terms, I want you to think about how they relate to the broader concepts we've been discussing. Understanding the precise definitions helps us communicate more effectively and ensures we're all on the same page. When I mention these words, I'll also highlight why they matter and how they connect to our overall theme of improving communication and clarity in our work. So let's focus on these terms, grasp their meanings, and see how they fit into the bigger picture. So what did she actually say? Well, that's the first question we need to ask ourselves. Then we move into the concern about the area. Doesn't that whole area seem a bit iffy? Or, looking at it from another angle, isn't that full area a little iffy? And finally, we can consider whether all of that area is a little iffy. These questions are important because they highlight how we interpret information and assess risk. When we say something is iffy, we're expressing doubt or uncertainty, which ties into the bigger picture of how we evaluate credibility and reliability in different contexts. So, by breaking down these questions, we're really examining the nuances of perception and how small details can change our overall understanding. Remember, the key here is to stay critical and curious, especially when the information seems uncertain or questionable. So let's take a closer look at this slide. The phrase, "What did he say?" prompts us to focus on understanding spoken language and how people interpret what they hear. It highlights the importance of clarity in communication. Now, moving on to the expressions involving cloud nine. You might have heard someone say, "Are you in cloud nine?" Or, "Are you on cloud nine?" These are idiomatic ways of asking if someone is feeling extremely happy or euphoric. Notice the subtle difference between in and on cloud nine. While both are used, on cloud nine is more common in everyday speech. The phrase itself vividly captures the feeling of being on a high, almost floating in happiness. In our overall discussion of language and expression, these idioms are great examples of how figurative language conveys emotions and states of mind beyond literal meaning. They also remind us how important context and correct phrasing are in effective communication. So when we ask, "Would you say you're on cloud nine?" we're really trying to gauge someone's happiness or excitement, and understanding these expressions helps us connect better with others. So let's take a closer look at what she actually said. First, we have freak out, which demonstrates how she expressed her initial reaction, almost as if she was surprised or overwhelmed. Then there's freaked out. This shows her emotional state shifting to a more intense feeling of being genuinely scared or anxious. Next, we see freaked out, which is interesting because it suggests she might have liked the feeling of being freaked out, perhaps indicating a complex or mixed emotional response. These variations highlight how her language and tone give us insight into her emotional experience. It's a great example of how people communicate their feelings, not just through words, but through the way they say them. And this ties back to our overall theme of understanding emotional expression, how subtle differences in wording can reveal different nuances of our feelings. So, paying attention to these details helps us better interpret and connect with what others are really experiencing. So what did he actually say? Well, look at these variations. The first one, "Sorry, I needs little break." Now, this is a bit of a common mistake, right? The word needs is incorrect here because it doesn't match the subject. It should be I need, simple, straightforward. Moving to the second one, "Sorry, I need a little break." This is correct and more natural. It clearly communicates that a short pause is needed, which is often necessary during conversations or presentations. And then the third variation, "Sorry, I needed a little break." This one indicates that the break was in the past, perhaps already taken. Overall, these different phrases show how small changes can alter the timing or tone of our message, and choosing the right one helps us communicate more clearly and professionally. It ties into our broader theme of effective communication. Being precise and appropriate with our words makes a big difference. So here's an interesting point. They're both from Jeddah. That already creates a shared background, which can be quite significant in understanding their connection. Fahd happens to be friends with Ahmed's brother, which adds another layer of familiarity and trust. Now, what's really fascinating is that they're both studying pre-law at the same college in Beirut. It's a coincidence that really stands out, especially given how interconnected their lives are. I have to admit, I was quite shocked when I learned about these overlaps. It just emphasizes how small and interconnected some communities can be. This example really highlights the theme of how coincidences can shape relationships and perceptions in unexpected ways. How to express a surprise? Well, it's all about the tone and the choice of words. When you want to show surprise, you can start with exclamations like "wow" or "really." These instantly signal your surprise to the listener. Another key point is your facial expression and body language, which complement your words and make the surprise feel genuine. Remember, the tone of your voice can elevate the feeling. Raising your pitch slightly or pausing for effect can make a big difference. Connecting this to our overall theme, expressing surprise authentically helps build rapport and keeps your conversations engaging. So, whether you're reacting to unexpected news or just sparking interest, these cues will help you communicate surprise effectively. So, both of us are studying psychology, which is really interesting because it gives us a deeper understanding of human behavior and emotions. We also share similar accents and mannerisms, which makes us feel quite connected and helps us relate to each other easily. We've been painting since we were 5 years old, which shows how long our passion for art has been a part of our lives. We both liked horses growing up, and that shared interest actually brought us closer together. Originally, we planned to study teaching, aiming to work with kids and help them learn, but our paths shifted a bit along the way. We also volunteered at the Community Support Center, which was a meaningful experience that reinforced our desire to help others. Interestingly, we have the same recurring dream, and that's a powerful reminder of how closely linked our thoughts and subconscious minds are. All of these points really highlight the strong bond and shared experiences that shape who we are today. Let's take a closer look at this slide. As you can see, the letters F, E, B, C, G, H, and D might seem like random points, but they actually represent key elements in our overall framework. The idea here is to understand how each component plays a crucial role in the bigger picture. For instance, the letter F could symbolize foundational principles that support everything else. Moving on, E might stand for essential strategies that drive our success. The sequence then continues with A and B, which are steps or actions that build on these principles and strategies. Next, C could represent challenges we need to address, while G and H highlight growth opportunities and hurdles. Finally, it ties everything together as the ultimate goal or outcome we're aiming for. What's important to note is that these points are interconnected, and understanding their relationships helps us see the full picture. This slide emphasizes that each element, from foundational principles to strategic actions and potential challenges, is vital in achieving our overall objectives. By keeping this in mind, we can better navigate the complexities of our project and ensure we're aligned with our core goals. Let's wrap up by looking at some practical ways to reinforce what we've learned. On the workbook, you'll find page 304, which contains exercises H. These are designed to help you apply the concepts we've discussed today. I encourage you to work through these exercises thoughtfully, as they're a great way to deepen your understanding. Additionally, there's homework related to this content. Completing these assignments will not only solidify your grasp of the material, but also prepare you for future discussions and applications. Remember, consistent practice is key to mastery. So, I recommend reviewing these exercises and homework carefully. They're an essential part of your learning process and will help you connect theory with real-world practice. Keep engaging with the material, and don't hesitate to revisit these resources as needed.